A concession speech. I look at this as being basically just that. It's a concession speech. All right. The other thing I want to get into is this. So I know a lot of you guys, for example, watch Paul Barron Network. Now there was a particular clip where him and his guests got into like just a brief, short. I don't even want to call it deep dive because it sounds like an oxymoron if it's short, but uh, a brief dive, if you will, on the whole thing of Hester Peirce and what she brings to the table. Now, Paul Barron mentioned specifically that no, it doesn't seem like it could be Hester Peirce because she stated that she didn't want the job. But that was in the past. Will she change her mind moving forward? And also keep in mind, in regards to Hester Peirce, that she was appointed, from what I gathered, by Trump. Yes, this is a real thing. By Trump, as you can see here, I'll just pull it up on the screen. That, she was sworn in on January 11, 2018, with that appointment for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, at least back then. But prior to the SEC, and I know this isn't on your screen yet, let me just pull it up again. What do you see? She conducted research on the regulation of financial markets, and basically speaking, I mean, she has a robust background, right? She was part of the senior counsel of the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, Urban Affairs. She advised ranking member Richard Shelby, other members of the committees on securities issues. So she gets it. And again, I don't want to get into all this, but the key thing is she has a background, and also she practiced law. She got her JD from Yale Law School. And on top of that, what do you see here? You see, for example, you know, she was nominated by President Barack Obama for commissioner on the SEC, but the United States Senate did not act on her nomination. Why? Well, I'm not going to play this whole thing, but basically speaking, it's this right here. And again, you're more than welcome to watch the whole thing if you want. It's Elizabeth Warren Q&A with SEC Commissioner nominee Hester Peirce. That was way back, right? Back in 2016. Okay. And just to give you a summary of that real quick, from what I gathered in that when I watched it, you had this deliberation, if you will. And basically speaking, she states that she as an Hester Peirce would abide by the rules of the SEC, but there's a little bit of like a challenge to that, and stating that at the same time we have to recognize what would be best for also investors of maybe other technologies and whatnot. And you really see uh, Elizabeth Warren give her the backlash of that, basically in a nutshell, saying that she does not recommend her for the nomination. So we already been there, done that. Okay, so that's Hester Peirce. What about some of these other people? Well, there's another highlight I want to get into, and it's this lady right here. It's Caitlin Long. You may or may not have heard about her, but basically speaking, in regards to Caitlin Long, I want you guys to understand that with her background, I mean, there's some things to get into. And before we read this real quick, what I want to point out with Caitlin Long is that she's a founder of Custia Bank, and has a strong advocation, of course, for blockchain innovation. Some of her strengths is basically like an extensive experience in finance, even crypto, and basically with a pragmatic view on integrating traditional and blockchain based financial systems. Some of the challenges that she's criticized for is her limited experience in government regulatory roles that people bring up, like raise concerns about her adaptability to a federal agency's leadership. More importantly, how she focuses like on the state of Wyoming, those types of things. Definitely worth pointing out. But would she be the type, basically speaking, where she's just basically, only like pro Bitcoin? And I think the answer is no, as we see right here. We see here from this quote a few years back in 2021, she recognizes that Ripple, for example, was going to relocate to Wyoming. And she thought, hey, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and mention that. Does she mention Ripple or XRP again? She does, back on also in February 2021. She talks about, for example, recognizing Wyoming as a better placed in Delaware due to their crypto-friendly laws. People often ask, like, who else in the crypto space is going to relocate there? And basically speaking, she again cites the whole thing with XRP, and as we see here, it definitely says plain as day that Ripple has this thing called Ripple Marcus Wyoming LLC, and you see it in the highlights, right? So we've already been there, done that. A lot of people reported in the past. But again, she didn't have to mention anything about Ripple, but she did. And more importantly, who is she? Well, founder, CEO, Custodia Bank, excuse me. And she's been in Bitcoin since 2012. Wall Street veteran, 22 years, right? So she does have a lot of experience with Wall Street. Is it going to be enough to put her on top? I'm leaning towards no, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that, because if we're talking about like a regulatory committee or being somebody that's going to do this on a national level, to me, I kind of would lean towards I get it on that, but not to dismiss it with her potential, and if anything, she might get selected. All right, what else do we have? Well, it's introducing this guy. It's Brian P. Brooks, lawyer and banker. Why would he be a particular candidate? Well, if anything, in my opinion, if I was going to root for one particular guy, this would be my guy. Why? Well, you'll want to really pay attention to this part, because when you get into him, well, he's more than just an American lawyer and banker and entrepreneur and all these amazing things. If you were to go over to his Wikipedia, one of the first things it basically mentions is that he's an American lawyer, banker, entrepreneur, but also served as acting comptroller of the currency. And basically speaking, nominated twice by President Donald Trump for a 5-year term as comptroller of the currency, once during the 116th Congress. So in my opinion, he already has a plug there. And, that's going to carry some weight in regards to, who would work best, obviously, not just with crypto, but like, pleasing, I guess you could say, the Trump administration. I'm not trying to make this political, but that's a real thing. Here's the highlight, though. Highlight is this. If you're going to go further down, there is this whole thing about Bitfury Group. So from October 21 to October 2022, so 2021 to 2022, Bricks, so much talk about Bricks lately, right? Brooks, excuse me, served as CEO or ex-CEO of Bitfury Group. Like it says, a blockchain technology company and one of the largest private infrastructure providers in the blockchain ecosystem. Bitfury Group was founded all the way back in 2021, and basically speaking, offers technology services such as AI, blockchain, Bitcoin mining services, high performance computing, and a digital cryptocurrencies payment platform for enterprises, by the way, called Peach. Now, emphasis will be on Peach here in a bit, but on top of that, currently speaking, Brian P. Brooks serves as a member of or on the board of directors for the company. Now, check this out. If we get more into Peach, you go to peachpayments.com. Like I says, think bigger than payments. The secure African payments gateway with easy integrations, 365 days support, and free daily settlements. Okay? Settling in what, though? All right? If anything, they won like an award about most innovative fintech. And what's interesting, it says trusted by some of Africa's most exciting businesses. I mean, big names, Adidas, New Balance, and you see some of these other ones, right? And some familiar names, some aren't. But it says the complete e-commerce payments toolkit. What you see with the logo, you see things like MasterCard. And you're going to want to really pay attention to why I'm mentioning things like MasterCard. Because as we get further into this, well, guess what, everybody? Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. There is Peach integration with the Overledger. Yes, as it says here from Zapier, which, by the way, I prefer Make over Zapier. Just throwing that out there. I like the visuals a little bit more, eye-catching. But it is what it is. You see integration of Peach talking to the Overledger. You launch the app of Peach. And as we pointed out before, I mean, think about it. Look at all this thing about mobility, free daily settlements. Huh. Yeah, sometimes you just got to look more into something that says quant without saying quant and finding out more about it because, again, when you see that you can launch the app and you can have it talk to Overledger and prepare a smart contract transaction, interesting to see that. And more importantly, also interesting to see specifically this. And what am I referring to? It's this other part. Are you aware that Brian P. Brooks serves on the board of the hbar Foundation, which is a foundation that supports the growth and development of, let's face it, we know about hbar by now. But again, that's interesting. And also on top of it, from March 2019 to March 2020, he served as a member of the board of directors of Fannie Mae, where he sat on the company's risk policy. So if anything, moving forward, somebody ready, or this guy really understands risk policy. I mean, these are all things that, even if we were just focusing specifically, like, well, how does he best benefit the SEC itself, and only that. To me, it seems like, I guess you could say, from that point of view, if they claim they're all about understanding risk and what's best for us, supposedly, then maybe this is more of somebody that appeals to them. Because a little bit more about this, when we get more into the weeds about this, well, again, it gets super, super interesting, because I want you guys to see that when we talk about, for example, Hedera, and we talk about quant, well, what else do we have in that regard? Well, as we know, Paulo Tasca doesn't get talked about enough, but he is currently a professor over at the University College of London, London's leading multidisciplinary universities. But he's also executive chairman over at Exponential SCI. And again, remember how we talked about AI with Mr. Brooks? Yeah, so driving blockchain AI, deep tech, conversions through the latest insights, research, and exclusive events. So interesting to see that both of these guys seem to want to specialize in the whole thing of AI, right? Brian P. Brooks and also Paulo Tasca. But what else? What else do you also see? Paulo Tasca was currently is, I should say, co-chairman of CoinCom at Hedera, and co-founded Quant Network along with Gilbert Verdian. All right, and of course he has background with Deutsche Bundesbank. I mean, a lot to get into. Excuse me, get a little hoarse. So at some point, you imagine that these two have talked to each other. Okay. All right. Well, what else? Well, here's the what else. If you got more into the whole thing of specifically, this whole thing of what we cited back here, let me jump back to it, excuse me, about Bitfury Group, well, things open up. And more importantly, this is going to be the icing on the cake, because what opens up is the connection of Bitfury with, for example, AIFC. And that brings us to this. It's a citation from FinTech 20 e-edition. And it mentions AIFC, which is Astana International Financial Center. And more importantly, it's understanding this, and that is through them as an AIFC who's connected to some of these key things that we're talking about. They have connection to the National Bank and the Commerce Bank and the Interbank Processing Center. And like it says, they are to execute the introduction of contactless technology to conduct payments in cashless form, along with the creation and development of a marketplace platform for payment services. Gee, I wonder what that would be. And products based on the Interbanking Processing Center IPC, and shift to ISO 222 Financial Services, Universal Industry or Financial Industry Message Scheme, International Standard. Wow, what in the world? Well, a little bit more about this, because remember how I talked about Bitfury? Well, check this out. Remember the whole thing I mentioned about AIFC and Bitfury? Well, this is from, let's just pull this up, International Comparative Legal Guides, PDF. And FinTech 2020, practical cross-border insight into FinTech law. And again, cross-border, because when you get into it, what does it mention? Bitfury Group, one of the top 50 most innovative FinTech companies, according to Forbes, in a participant in AIFC. The company has already opened data centers in Kazakhstan. So, wow, Kazakhstan? Really? Yes, really. And this is where it gets even better, because even though we share some things about Peach and the overledger with the quant network, well, what do you have here? You see, because we did mention the National Bank of Kazakhstan, right? Which is, they call it the NBK. Interesting abbreviation. ISO TC307 member is Kazakhstan. So boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew once again. So here's my thing. I would like to know from you guys, who do you feel of that list would be the best candidate moving forward? I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want somebody just, only Bitcoin, but just dismisses, all of crypto. Again, we wouldn't want that. So moving forward, for me personally, I think, based off of what was shared in the presented material, that Brian P. Brooks might very well be the best candidate moving forward, but maybe it's another one. Share which one you think it's going to be, and if anything, we'll look more into it. But there you have it. We want somebody that is across the board. That's what counts. So we're going to talk about like quant and interoperability, or talk about XRP interoperability, hbar interoperability, right? We have to reference that it's not just Bitcoin, it's full interoperability with all of this. So thought I would mention that and bring it to you guys. So that's the outline. If you stuck around to the end of this outline, simply do me a solid and type this keyword into the comments, and that is Paulo Tasca, as in PT. You can type PT or Paulo Tasca, and I'll know that you listened to the entire outline. Appreciate you guys listening to these outlines. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.